This part of the site discusses the ultimate truth and is noteworthy, so here's an audio explanation for those who like to listen in addition to reading. This part of the site uses a logarithmic spiral to explain God, as defined at the top of the Purpose of Life page, and life, using geometry and math, which is often considered a universal language and is largely objective, as compared to words which can be subjective. In this explanation, God is compared to the origin of a logarithmic spiral, and life, or the phenomenal universe, Maya in Indian philosophy, is compared to the spiral. The first point is that God is our true self and heart, as in the ancient Greek saying know thyself, and as in the Indian concept of self-realization, and God is the essence of all things, just as the origin of a logarithmic spiral is situated at the heart of the spiral. A second point is that God is the one absolute truth, just as the origin of a logarithmic spiral is the singularity at which the spiral ultimately converges. A third point is that God is transcendent, and the ever-changing phenomenal universe and individual soul forever grow towards transcendent God without ever reaching it, just as the origin of a logarithmic spiral represents infinity, and a logarithmic spiral forever approaches its origin without ever reaching it. A fourth point is that God is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, both the end goal of evolution and beginning source of life at once, just as the origin of a logarithmic spiral represents both the end point and beginning point of the spiral, depending on which direction you consider it to be growing at once. A fifth point is that God is peace and love, just as the amplitude, or oscillation magnitude, of a logarithmic spiral's rotations decreases towards zero, and their frequency, or number of cycles per unit, increases towards infinity, as the spiral approaches its origin. Zero amplitude is calmness, in other words peace. Infinity frequency is power, in other words love as in passion. These are the two fundamental qualities of God that go by many names. Another pair is receiving and giving. A receptive state is one of calmness and clarity, in other words zero amplitude and peace. And to give is to create passion and power, in other words infinity, frequency, and love. Accordingly, another pair is the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Femininity is about receiving, masculinity about giving. Another pair is all-pervasiveness, or omnipresence, and almightiness, or omnipotence. Again, zero amplitude and peace relate to receptivity, which is also openness, expansion, and breadth, in other words all-pervasiveness, and infinity frequency relates to depth and infinite power, in other words almightiness. I believe these two qualities are the underlying meaning of yin and yang too. This explanation is corroborated by a quote from the Saint Ramana Maharshi, in which he compares the sage to a spinning top. A theoretical optimally spinning top is both perfectly balanced and spinning infinitely fast. Infinitely fast spin enables it to remain perfectly balanced in spite of perturbing influences, and perfect balance enables it to spin infinitely fast without going out of control. In other words, the amplitude of its rotations is zero, and their frequency is infinity, just as the origin of a logarithmic spiral represents these two qualities. Interestingly, UFOs are piloted by spiritually knowledgeable extraterrestrials and function identically, being spinning disks. This brings us to a sixth point, which is that God, the perfect and infinite, universal and foundational source of life energy, intuition, and conscience, is the one and only example of perpetual motion, and the ideal, perfectly efficient, and infinitely powerful life-giving being to aspire to match, whether for collectives, individual souls, or machines such as energy generators and UFOs. Just as zero amplitude, perfect balance, and perfect peace mean perfect smoothness, zero vibration, zero friction in the sense of conflict and energy dissipation, and perfect efficiency, and infinity frequency, infinitely fast spin, and infinite love mean infinite power. It's also notable that logarithmic spirals are fractals, which are fundamental to consciousness, and being equiangular and self-similar, they exemplify equality, which is closely related to oneness. That's basically the whole truth to religion explained using a fractal, equality-based geometric shape in a way in which everything, including God's status as our true self and heart, the essence of all things, the one absolute truth, transcendent, the Alpha and the Omega, peace and love, and the one and only example of perpetual motion clicks together and makes sense.